Let's talk about solving problems. This technique I'm going to show you is the basis for pretty much everything I do at work and is the single most important thing to learn if you want to be successful. Please click that subscribe button to see more great content like this. If you can effectively solve problems in the workplace and make it seem effortless, you will be known as one of the go-to leaders in your organisation. How many times has someone come to you and said, "This is a huge problem, we need to sort this out"? If I had $1 for every time that happened, I would have a lot of dollars, believe me. You may have even said this to yourself on many occasions, or even the general consensus could be that something is a huge problem at work. Now here's the thing, from now on, we're not going to call this a problem. Why? Because it isn't. It's only a perceived problem. A perceived problem is always the starting point. From here, I'm going to show you how to go from a perceived problem to a real solution in just 6 easy steps. This process is so easy that you'll be wondering why everyone doesn't work in this way. The fact is that they can, and you need to spread the word. Step 1. What is the perceived problem? Work with your colleagues to write down exactly what the problem is. This will give you something to tell people that you're working on. Try to answer these questions. What is the problem? What is it about the problem that affects the customer or the bottom line of the business? When was the problem first observed? When does the problem occur? How big do you think the problem is? How do you know it's even a problem? Where is the problem observed? Is it in a particular area or a particular team, for example? And finally, who? To whom does the problem occur? If I'm running a cafe and customers are returning their drinks more than ever before, then I would base the perceived problem on this. Here's what I would write down. The staff in the cafe have noticed that customers are returning their drinks more often than before. This is causing customer dissatisfaction. This problem statement is quite basic because of the example used, but you can see that we have a measurable problem. The number of customer returns is something that we can easily monitor, and this will help us on the next step. Step 2. Prove how big the problem is. This is where you get to measure your perceived problem to see if it actually exists and is a real problem. This for me is a key part of the process because many of the issues you look at will end here. This is where you may have to tell the person who asked you to look at something or ask for it to be fixed that there isn't actually a problem. It's so important to be honest here and do not spend your valuable time fixing something that isn't a problem, or isn't a big problem, or isn't big enough a problem. Get some data on the problem and display it in a way that shows the gap between where we are now and what the customer wants or expects. We track the customer returns in our cafe and you can see a huge increase from September onwards in customer returns. We also got the staff to write down how much time they spent remaking drinks for customers, and we were shocked just how much time is being wasted. We could have gone further if needed and monitor customer waiting times and maybe survey customers to check how happy they are with the service. It's really important to measure not just the problem, but the actual knock-on effect and cost that exists because of the problem. In our example, the returns alone were enough to justify continuing to the next stage of the problem-solving process, but in a real-life business situation, nothing speaks louder than cold hard cash. If a problem is costing a lot of money, nobody will continue to ignore it and you'll have everyone on board. Step 3. Identify the potential causes of the problem. For this stage, we need to write down what we think the causes of the problem could be. Nothing is off the menu here. Get the team together and generate as many potential causes as possible. Let's think about it in this way. If I have a desired output, let's call this the why. It can only be affected or influenced by the process or the inputs to the process. We'll call them the input X's and the process X's. Don't worry too much about the terminology, but I just want to get across the idea. And the idea here is to determine which of these x's, if changed, affects your problem or the output, the y. If we're making a drink, the output or the y will be if it gets returned or not. As a team, we tried to brainstorm everything that could affect the y, such as the type of drink, the staff member who made the drink, the day of the week the drink was served, the time of the day, and many other suggestions. You'll end up with a huge list, just as we did. Now it's time for the team to narrow down the list to the most important or significant ones to take to the next phase. We all voted to look at the type of drink and also the staff member that had prepared the drink. Step 4. Prove what is causing the problem. Now comes the crucial bit. We need to prove or disprove these different x's or different inputs. Does changing the x change the y? If yes, then you have a correlation which you can explore further. If no, then move on to something else. Remember, you can always redo step 3 if you need to and come back. So let's carry on with step 4. You will need to determine a way of measuring each of the elements in a way that you can either say it's a significant factor or not. For our example, we gave the supervisor a tick sheet and told them to monitor the activity for 3 random days. Every time they had a customer return, they had to tick the type of drink served and the staff member that had prepared it. Remember, like most things in life, this will follow the 80-20 rule. That means 80% of the problems are caused by 20% of the inputs. So we're not looking to fix the world here, just find the few highly significant causes. Definitely Google the 80-20 rule because it's such a useful principle. Okay, we got some results in, and you can see that tea and coffee were the main returns. You can also see that poor Julie got far more returns than anyone else. Before we start firing Julie, we need to understand this a little bit deeper. And remember, 99.9 out of 100 people come to work to do a fantastic job. It's very rarely that people themselves are the problem. If a process allows somebody to be wrong, then the process needs fixing, not the person. Remember, this is so important. So we had a meeting with the team and looked at the results. Hot drinks were returned. The only common ingredient was water. Now, how can water be the problem, you might ask? To try and get some clues, we watched all the staff members make a drink, and they did everything the same apart from one thing. Julie used the boiling kettle instead of the large tea urn. Everyone was now unsure. We reran step 4 with the extra knowledge we had gained and decided to try some more random samples, but this time another staff member using the kettle. And guess what? The complaints came rolling in for the other staff member. Now we're another step closer. What is it about the kettle? The only possible cause now is the temperature of the water. The supervisor purchased a temperature sensor and noticed a staggering difference in the serving temperatures between the kettle and the urn. The kettle was far hotter, and she almost burnt her mouth when drinking the hot tea. Could the water temperature, after all this, be causing all of these complaints? Remember, to properly analyse a problem, you can cycle between step 3 and 4 as many times as you need to until you truly understand the cause of the problem. We now have proven that a drink prepared by the kettle is a problem, and the only difference is water temperature, so it must be that. Fantastic, we now know what's causing our problem. Now we can move to the next stage and fix it. Step 5. Generate and implement solutions. In the same way that you brainstorm the potential causes of the problem, now you should brainstorm the best solution to fix the cause of the problem. Remember, by fixing the cause of the problem, you will fix the problem forever. Once you have a list of potential solutions, you will need to pick those solutions that you will apply. The best solutions are the ones that are the easiest and the cheapest to do and offer the most benefits. Luckily for us in our cafe, we have enough budget for an urn to replace the kettle, so we chose to do that. Remember, the aim is to fix the cause of the problem, which will remove the possibility of the problem happening. Depending on the solution chosen, you may want to carry out a small trial to test the water. Sorry about the pun. Okay, so you have a solution and have trialled and implemented it. Let's move to the last step. Step 6. Prove you have fixed the problem for good. The last stage of the process is to check that the problem has been solved forever. This step is basically a mirror of step 2, where you will remeasure the problem. In our cafe, we redid the checks that we did in step 2 and found that we had no further complaints. Don't forget also to state the cost savings and all other benefits realised from having solved the problem, and then tell everyone about it. You can even show them these 6 steps and take them on the journey with you, because these 6 steps are formed in a great way that tells a fantastic story. Okay, so we used a very simple example for this, but this method will work for any problem. Give it a try and you will be surprised by the results. Let's quickly recap the key steps. 1. Write down the perceived problem in a way that you can measure it. Remember to capture the extra costs and effects that exist because of the problem. Money talks. 2. Prove how big the problem is before continuing. If it is not big enough, don't be afraid to communicate this and not waste your valuable time. 3. Brainstorm the potential causes of the problem, then vote on the ones to go and prove or disprove. 4. Measure those potential causes to see which ones affect the output or the problem. Remember, you may need to go back to step 3 several times to get down to the root causes of the problem. Also, don't forget the 80-20 rule. 5. Brainstorm and trial a solution. Remember, the best solutions are quick, low cost and easy to implement. If a solution is too costly or difficult, it may be more beneficial to actually put up with the problem. 6. Remeasure the problem to ensure the causes of the problem have been fixed for good. And lastly, remember that 99.9% of people, including you, are awesome, and it's almost always the process and not the people that drive problems. Thank you for watching.